Guardian, we've picked up a high-gain transmission. Origin point is somewhere along the coast, near the Cosmodrome.
What is up, Guardians? This is Cosmodrome Radio, broadcasting live all the way from here to Neomuna for a special occasion. We are going to be talking about some great stuff with it when it comes to Destiny 2 and everything about it, like we do every week, except for last week, because there wasn't really a whole lot to talk about. And then on top of this episode, we're probably going to have to do another episode because Bungie just dropped the new TWID on us, not the TWAB anymore, the TWID, and said, you know what, here's some more stuff to talk about. And we're gonna have another rousing round of Dava and Panda arguing about why Stompies needed to be nerfed, but it's fine. We'll talk about that later on a different episode. That's not this one. Don't forget that you can listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, and Audible, all those great places. The fact that literally when I go redeem my Audible token every month, this show is next to all my books is really weird. I don't understand why Amazon has it in Audible too, but it's fine. It's weird, but it's fine. You can follow us on Twitter at Cosmodrome Radio. And if for some reason you just cannot find us on like any of these apps, you can go to cosmodromeradio.com and you will see the links there as well. And in conjunction with this episode, we are releasing our Pride shirt, our Broadcast with Pride shirt design made by Georgia Knight, an amazing artist that teamed up with us to have our mascot, Craig the Drag, on it, as well as every queer character that is in the Destiny universe all on one shirt. I know some, like we had a little bit of a pre-sale in the Discord. Dava spent over $100 like a hooligan, and we love him for that.
You gotta spend that money, spend it.
And we are super excited about this design, and it's gonna be insane. And this is a really dope Pride episode. We got some dope stuff going on. My name is Panda the Paladin. To my left, we have the warlock disguised as a hunter this season because for some reason he's trying to change his stripes and we don't understand why. We have Alchemy. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
All right, excellent. We have the man with the money bags and the true hunter in the room. Dava, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Spending that money. Look, so you gotta invest in the people you actually support. Spend some money. Definitely. Look, hey, we need it. I'm poor. So, hey.
He says. All right. And then across from me, we have not like for once, she is not alone as not the only MB in the room. This is going to be for a special occasion. Tower, I know you're like shattering with excitement. How are you? Oh, apparently she's not at her mic.
I'm so excited. No, I'm on my mic. What?
Okay, you sounded like you were far away for a second. I was like, what?
Oh, no. I am here. I am good. I am excited. And I am super, super excited. All right.
This is going to be a dope occasion, folks. Because not only did this already was a special episode for me being a Hades fan, but this got even better when we wanted to tie it into Destiny as well. The voice actor who put just like so much soul and so much energy into this character, then they were very slept on by the community, and there was even some negativity for no reason because this character was amazing, and you see them come up and have this amazing journey to discover themselves and be better about themselves as the story goes on. They face loss and have to go through that and find their purpose through the adversity. And it was such an amazing journey to watch over the course of Lightfall. With the few failings of Lightfall that there were, this story meant a lot to a lot of people. And I am so privileged. We are all so privileged to have Marin Miller here with us. How are you?
Hello. It is I who is the privileged one, in fact, to be here with you Guardians. But yeah, really glad to be here and say hello to everybody and talk about Hades and Destiny.
Hell yes.
Oh.
So what were you saying, Devin?
Oh no, I said I can't wait. Let's go.
I thought you were about to say something else. But say like it's just so much hype behind this. We've been like hyping this up, and I'm just this is great. Okay, so one thing we always like touch on is the experience of the origin story, and like while we don't know if you are a guardian in another life, but like what made you want to pursue the art of using your voice in a larger medium format?
Oh boy. Well, so my origin story, I'd say I kind of became aware of acting when DVDs started becoming a thing when I was around 9 or 10. And the first DVD that I really watched that had like behind the scenes footage on it that wasn't Star Wars, was Patch Adams. It was a Robin Williams movie. And there's it's not great. Like I watched it again as an adult and it's not the best, but we love Robin Williams, and there's a scene in that movie where he swims in a pool of spaghetti with an old woman because that's like something that's on her bucket list. And I was like, oh my God, an adult got paid to do that. Jobs are amazing. I want one. So I started pursuing acting because of that. I still have not fulfilled that particular duty or desire, I should say. But when I was probably around, I started auditioning for things when I was 11 or 12. And I am kind of one of those people who, my mom is 6'3", I'm 6 foot. I kind of just popped out of her womb as a giant. And so I've never really looked like other people in my age or gender category, hence the non-binariness. And so that was not something that was very marketable at that age. Because I was 14, but I looked kind of like a weird 16, 17-year-old. And when you are also a kid, you're more expensive to hire. So anyway, I started getting into anime. And I started emailing voice actors because I was like, well, I may not be able to act to physically be in a pool of spaghetti, but I can voice act being in a pool of spaghetti with an old lady. And it might not pay me as much, but I can still get paid. So I started bothering anime voice actors. And then from there, I started... I was born outside of LA in the desert where there's like no paved roads. So I would drive, 2 hours to auditions and then drive home and cry when inevitably nothing happened. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the way it started. And I actually, the first thing I ended up booking was the Full Metal Alchemist movie. The first one, The Conqueror of Shambhala, because I was in an AOL Instant Messenger chat room and talked to the director there. And then from there, I talked to LA studios and started, being like, hey, I can do this voice acting thing. And they were like, all right, well, let's give it a shot. And that was about 17 years ago. And here I am.
Oh, wow.
Wow. That's phenomenal. Like you've come definitely a long way. Ironically enough, Hades wasn't the first thing I ever like heard you in. It was actually Cannon Busters because back when that first came out, I interviewed the cast the main cast of Cannon Busters for my old Black Nerd podcast. So it's kind of a weird connection that we've bridged a little bit there.
Yeah.
That show still, I'm so sad that it did not get another season because that anime was groundbreaking in so many different ways. And when it comes to diversity, that was a big stepping stone for me trying to educate and fight for more. And when it comes to to your experience, I know trying to find certain roles has to be very challenging. What is it like being able to do very masculine, but then step into the role of Hades, where you're doing sort of more stoic and feminine voices like that?
Well, Hades was interesting because I actually booked that before. That was around the time that I was really starting to be like, I think I might be queer. I already knew I was bisexual. I had sniffed that out. I guess I'm pansexual. I say bi because that was the only word I had at the time, but really I just enjoy having sex with anybody. Consent involved and stuff.
Right.
I'm gonna get off this topic. But anyway, the gender thing was a secondary thing to me because I thought it wasn't like negotiable. So, silly me. At the time, I actually was really in my head about being a woman, because it felt like there were so many rules involved, that I just didn't know how to follow. And when I got the audition for Hades, the sides were very much like it's funny. I listened to the original audition that I sent in, and it's so different from the way that Athena is now, where she's very like, yes, here we are, cousin. I'm here to help you out. You fucked it up again. I'm very but but when I first auditioned, I was like, "Oh, there you are, cousin. Yes, let's get this going." And it's just because, like, at the time, I was very much like, "Ugh, if I just act like I'm actually distracted and busy and talking to my cousin on like a little super Olympian cell phone or whatever, then I'm probably not going to book this because they're going to think I sound like a bitch." But then when I submitted it, they were like, "No, we want you to sound a little bitchier." And I was like, "Oh, okay, great. I can do that." Um, so, and after Hades is when things kind of really started coming into place. And now I definitely see gender as much more of a performance. But at the time, Hades was very like groundbreaking for me because it was one of the first projects that I had actually been allowed to just sort of step into and be like, "All right, this is what I have to offer, and I'm gonna give it to you, and you like it, so here we go." Because because I've tended to, in the dubbing circles that I've been in, I was always had the more masculine voice and the deeper voice of my colleagues. So being able to be Athena, who had such a deep voice, and be like Alecto, and I like to joke that she's horny for blood, but like, and then to Symphony, who is like basically just a depressed Pokemon. But
yeah, that's a great way to put that.
but since I didn't have it was a much smaller auditioning circle. Like, I'm pretty sure they just kind of, I didn't realize it at the time, but I'm pretty sure they just sort of like had a small list of actors, and they sent us, a handful of auditions, and then we just sort of booked if they thought that we could do it, and then they would alter our voices after the fact. Like, I didn't know that Alecto's voice would be changed, but I imagined that Tisiphony's would have probably been changed because they said she was, monstrous and kind of haunting and a ghost-like. So that's why I went with that sort of like crackly mourning sound. But then, yeah, I forgot where I was going with this, but I didn't really start getting into the more. I mean, actually, I have been doing the more masculine side of things in my career because I would tend to do like a lot of boy voices. And I just thought it was because I was a more tomboyish person myself. But then it wasn't until I got cast as this character, Izanami, in Be the Beginning, that I started being like, oh, there are people and there are characters who exist between the genders, because the character of Izanami was described to me by the producer and the director as sort of being between male and female. And that was very novel to me at the time because it wasn't something that I knew could happen in the real world. And then by the time I got cast as Enkidu in Fate Grand Order, Absolute Demonic Front Babylonia, I think is the full title. That was when I started being like, okay, I think this masculine thing, this androgynous thing, is definitely something that feels much more comfortable for me, and something that deserves a lot more thought than I've been giving it. And I actually did come out as non-binary prior to Enkidu's announcement, because I felt very strongly that if I was accepting these roles and I was questioning my own gender, that it was kind of not wrong of me to accept the role, but like I personally feel like if I want to explore my gender in therapy, then I need to pay for therapy, and acting should not be my first coping mechanism for therapy. And I think it's very important to have people that represent those perspectives in roles that are coded like that. So that's why I personally came out at that time as non-binary, and then later on I realized I was trans. But anyway, that's a very long answer, but I hope it answers the question.
No, it was phenomenal, and like it actually like kind of bridged into my next question, because one thing that really stuck out to me in that sort of honored Greek mythology in Hades was the like continuation and the approval of the Achilles and Patroclus relationship, and then just the diversity of not actually being afraid of having different skin tones for the different like depictions of the characters. And then you see you evolving into this new universe with Destiny, where you have not only like multiple different races, multiple different factions, but in multiple different sexualities and genders alike, where we even saw the Hive God go through a gender transformation. Like that was a very groundbreaking, and that not really a lot of people talk about, is the fact that Oryx went to being Oryx, the Taken King. So what was that? What was that like for you, seeing two different like I wouldn't say titans in terms, because like the Hades was a more grassroots game, but in terms of like two different like games coming together and promoting diversity in big ways.
It was kind of shocking seeing Hades as a finished product, because, you know, like you were saying, there was so much differentiation in the way that the characters were presented in terms of their skin tones and stuff like that. But something that I also really enjoyed about Hades was that they approached the conversation of poly in a very sort of neutral, like conversational, non-judgmental way. And there is a conversation between, I think it's Zagreus and Achilles, because, you know, I didn't know that the game had romance in it, because none of my characters had romantic involvements with Zagreus, I don't think. Or if I did know there was romance involved, it was a very passing thing, and I was like, oh my god, don't fuck this up, Marin, you're working with Supergiant. Like when I heard about the romantic element and stuff, I was like, oh my god. And then when I heard that you could be gay, I was like, oh my god, fuck. And then the whole poly thing started happening, because I started flirting with multiple, I started flirting with both Meg and Thanatos. And Achilles has that bit where he's like, I mean, you're a fucking god, dude. Like you're alive longer than I can comprehend. So who am I to judge who you want to sleep with? Like, I imagine you guys just get bored after a while. And I'm just sitting here like, that's what I'm fucking talking about. Like, why the fuck would we be like clinging to cis heterosexual like nuclear family structures in a situation where the morality is completely different, because our lifespans are completely different and we don't die when we are killed? Like, the rules are just different. So why do we believe in God in this universe that he's judging us? He's fapping too. Come on.
I love this so much.
So, but it was, I really appreciated just having, that space to explore the sexuality of the character. And also I thought it was kind of neat that, like, in spoilers for the threesome scene that eventually happens, but like
okay.
Oh yeah, Hades is racing. Hades is a racing game.
And then threesome. Oh, I love it. But like before it happens, Zagreus is standing in the room, and the two of them are standing in the room, and he's like, okay, I can explain. And they're like, dude, you don't have to. The two of us have already fucked. We've known each other longer than you have been alive. Let's just do this. We're all hot. Let's just do it. And I'm like, oh God, yes. Thank you, God. So it's just really cool to see, if not just for the sake of having something different, for the sake of having a creative exercise, but for the sake of feeling seen by a video game for once in your fucking life, if you're polysexual, But and then from a Destiny standpoint, I admit I feel fucking embarrassed because I did not really know very much about Destiny coming into the game. And honestly, my husband and I have joked about this after the fact because I think part of the reason why people were so grumpy at Nimbus is because they were expecting this next big follow through on this huge climax of their favorite video game. And what they got was this cute little Nembo just coming in with like the pizza boxes being like, hey guys, what's going on? Oh shit. And, I'm just having a great time. I'm meeting fucking, new people that I thought were warlords, and it turns out they're really cool people. And you guys are like, no, I want to be grizzled and grumpy. And I'm like, no, turn that frown upside down, little buddy. And people don't like that. And I can understand that. But coming into it, I had such a different impression of what Destiny was because it was a first-person shooter. I didn't realize how queer the people working on it were. I didn't realize how queer the character roster was. So I was very much like surprised to that they were even going to be exploring and kind of centering Lightfall around a non-binary character and a perspective. So it was really surprising to me after I had recorded everything, because that's when I think I wrapped like right before the August 23rd announcement, where they showed like the artwork of Nimbus and Rohan, and they kind of announced Lightfall and everything. And like that prior to that, I didn't even know that like Saint and Osiris, that they were gay, and that there was another trans character, and that there was a gender transformation. And now like I'm learning all of these things, and it's just like I'm in love. I'm so frustrated with myself because I'm so bad at Twitch-based gameplay, like especially first-person shooters. And when you add platforming into the mix, I just turn into a useless lump. And I'm also embarrassed because I did briefly make a Guardian, and I was like, well, I can't name myself Nimbus because that's just too much. So then I was like, what about Nimblist? That's a cute little pun. And then I spent like 30 minutes trying to jump on top of a single platform.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
Hey, you're not the only potato here. It's all right.
Well, we
Like,
all
I
gotta
cannot-
start
I'm
somewhere.
horrible at first-person shooters, so you are not alone here.
It takes time for all of us. That definitely makes sense.
Yes, indeed. It was just funny because the name just added to the embarrassment. I'm like, I'm not nimble at all. I'm just like you said, you're throwing a potato. That's what
Well, at least you're like sort of giving it a try in your own way. And like I do want to commend not only the writing staff, but you and like the other voice actors' portrayal of this, because one thing, like even if we wouldn't have got the announcement of like Nimbus being they them, they would have just went into it, and the casualness of Rohan just being like, oh yeah, they're over there, like just the casualness, like the acceptance, the higher level of thinking, like you were talking about, where we're in like a post-apocalyptic situation. Who cares? It was very like it's like honestly really touching to see just like everyone's accepting it. Cool, they bet whatever. Cool, we got people to kill. We got bigger priorities.
Yeah.
Like it was such a great way to go about it. And when reading that, how did that go about for you?
It's interesting. So it's funny because like watching the hype from the outside, it was really funny because my husband and we were looking at Twitter, especially when they released the couple of VDocs leading up to the release. It was funny because the people who were critical of Nimbus were very verbally like, oh, they're going out of their way to showcase Nimbus and show everyone how woke they are. But like as the voice actor for Nimbus, I was like desperately like scrambling for the crumbs that I could possibly get, because they showed so little of Nimbus, and I think they were trying to avoid that criticism overtly of like, this is my fucking projection. I'm not affiliated with Bungie, and I don't speak with them regularly at all, so please take this with whatever huge grain of salt can be taken. But like I just thought it was really funny that like in one corner you have the grumpy anti-woke people grumbling about the fact that a non-binary person exists, and then you have the people, there was me and there was like a couple other people on Twitter who were like, Nimbus voice reveal when? Like, because the only thing that they had was that little woo that Nimbus does right before he goes, well, the bigger they are, the uglier they, or the uglier they are, the harder they fall. And that was like the only thing we could really hear prior to release.
I was one of those Nimbus voice reveal when people. Because
Yeah.
I love like just finding out who voice actors are, giving them my support, like you've seen with myself on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm here to support the people that bring my characters to life. And so like, for me, it was like, when do we get to hear their voice? When?
Fun. And like Nimbus, when I was recording them, it was one of those characters where it was like, I knew that they were going to be kind of polarizing because they had a sense of humor, because they were a little quippy, and because they were non-binary. And I think I did come home after the first session, and I was like, Martin, I can't wait to piss off all the gamer boys and for them to tell me I ruined Destiny. And guess what they did? They said I ruined Destiny.
That's hilarious.
So like, it's just funny to me, that is in retrospect now, but like the lead up to it, it was so exciting because the people who were interested were really interested, and it does amuse me because at the end of the day, there really wasn't much about the Lightfall story and much about the non-binary perspective that was specifically like focused on in Lightfall. And I think that's kind of the fucking point. Is that
Absolutely.
really, yeah, the only functional difference is you just don't make any assumptions about like who I am and what I can do for you, sexually or otherwise. And then you just call me a they, them every once in a while. Or just refer to me by my name instead if it's that hard for you, And I think that was refreshing. And it was really nice just because like as somebody who has never felt at home in a female identity, because a lot of times it does tend to center around maternalness and motherhood, and that is not like I like caring for the people around me, but I'm not a maternal person. And a lot of characters that are feminine tend to have that kind of perspective in those sort of stories to tell, because oh god, we could go into writing tropes and all that other shit. That's a whole other conversation. But
Right.
it was very nice being Nimbus, just being able to be Nimbus and be like, okay, these weird things that I have needed to avoid because they were not seen as overtly feminine are now something that are being encouraged, because it's just part of who I am. It's part of just the quirkiness of who I am naturally. There are certain reads that my friends and my husband are like, yep, that's 100% you. Like, we can't recognize your voice in this character, but we can fucking hear you in those moments.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, and I also like, because for me, like, acting, I realized that I don't really tick a lot of marketable boxes. I'm a niche, and that's a strength and a weakness in its own way. But because if I'm a niche, I'm probably not going to be working as much because I'm a specialized talent, and that means that I really want the things that I work on to matter to me. And the thing that really that mattered to me after after Nimbus came out was like, I had people messaging me, like somebody who is a colleague of mine reached out and said that like their roommate when they came out as non-binary was being an asshole about it, and now that they've read they them a few times in some lore entries, it's much easier for them to use they them because it's become normalized for them to use it. So that's important to me, like if I'm going to be wasting my time angsting about whether or not I get a job, I want that job to have some sort of effect on somebody. So it makes me glad to know that, there are people who care so much about the work that we did.
Most definitely. And like I know that seeing the representation in this video game has been like so dramatically impressive and like much of an impact on me, and it's been like phenomenal. But like in terms of impact, the other MB in the room has been dying for the opportunity to get on the mic with you. So I'm gonna turn this one over to her and let her go at it for a minute.
Hi, mommy.
Hi, Marin. I'm mom, but I'm not that kind of mom. Just
I'm the one doing
super
the
cute.
stepping.
Oh my God, you have no idea how many times I have to warn people about that. So I have some questions specifically about being NB and being trans in the voice acting spaces, because like I said earlier, I love to support, our voice actors. I love to support our actors in any way, shape, and form that I can, because y'all are the people who bring our favorite characters to life, and Nimbus wouldn't be Nimbus without you. Drifter wouldn't be Drifter without Todd. Osiris would definitely not be Osiris without Oded. All of y'all are my favorite people, but there's so little representation within the voice acting space as a whole. So my question, I have a few questions, so they're going to be kind of deep. So I hope you don't mind.
I like it.
Diving, if you will, into the methane waters of Titan. So my first question for you is kind of a positive as compared to negative. What have you found to be the easiest? What have you found are the most easy and the most difficult things about being gender nonconforming in the acting and voice acting spaces?
Well, I'd say the easiest things, the thing that words.
Words do be hard.
Yes, they do be hard. The thing that has made that accepting gender neutrality has made voice acting so much easier for me, because it kind of has made me realize that like gender has always been a performance and is kind of a performance for everybody. And it's just a matter of finding the performance that is most fulfilling for you. So, I feel like there are many women who, I think we can all agree that men and women are not biologically wired any one way or another. We have tendencies and that are encouraged by social interactions while we're growing up. And there are certain behaviors that make us feel more enforced in those things. If there were not, Facebook would not think I was a man and be sending me ads for gender-affirming ball hammocks for men. Literally something that comes up in my feed every day. So once I started realizing, like, oh, of course, like, because I didn't realize what my gender dysphoria monologue was, right? We all have cognitive dissonance, and some of us, that cognitive dissonance involves our gender. And for me, that cognitive dissonance was anytime I would present high femme, I would just look at myself in the mirror and be like, you're a fucking liar. You are a liar. Nobody's going to look at you and believe that you are what you are presenting yourself to be. And that is something that gets into your bones, you know? It affects how you feel about yourself and how you can present yourself to other people confidently. And when you're trying to be the best version of yourself and you want to be there for other people, you have to be confident. You have to be, you know, a good version of yourself. And for me, trying to perform femininity, wearing dresses, speaking in a way that was non-threatening to certain people, the expectation of me being shorter than men, you know, there are all sorts of little tripwires that I would pull without even realizing it. And it just kept getting in the way. And whenever I would go into the booth, it would manifest in like, okay, am I breathy enough, you know, or am I too aggressive, or am I too judgy? And especially when you're a femme, like these are things that you really need to worry about a lot more than masculine presenting performers do, because I hate to say it, but I think a lot of people tend to project moms onto femmes, and then if femmes do or say anything negative, they're like, oh my god, my mom's yelling at me. And it's like, no, I'm just a random woman presenting person, thank you. Can we have a conversation, please, without your mom? Anyway. It's psychology. But yeah, so I would get in my head about it whenever I'd try and present feminine. Like I was telling somebody earlier today, one of my longest running jobs was for Lego Friends. I was one of the main girls in that. And I almost didn't submit my audition for that, because when I was auditioning, she was the maternal kind of soft character. Oh God, I can't even do the voice anymore. But she was kind of like this, very soft spoken and very sweet and blah blah blah, but an octave higher now. But when I would listen back, I remember like I was having a meltdown because I just kept saying like, it sounds like a fake girl. But now I'm just like, what does that mean? I was a girl. I was a woman. So why was I fake? And it was because it felt fake to me. Yeah. And you know, so when I started accepting that it's supposed to feel alien is when I was like, okay, I can deal with this, you know? So to be honest, I'm still kind of struggling with whether or not I'm bigender or agender. And, that's also, I mean, and that doesn't quite affect the performance quite as much as my own just internal operating system, I suppose. But yeah, and as for the hardest parts, boy, when it comes to commercial work, that is the most lucrative field in voiceover. 'Cause like, you know, I booked a Super Bowl commercial once, and that was a $12,000 paycheck, and that was a low payout. Yeah, and that went into a new air conditioner immediately. But there, like a friend of mine got, if you can get onto like a contract for looping or something like that, then you can get residual payouts per project, like up to $50,000 to $100,000 a year. I'm not sure what the caps are on residuals anymore, but and that's to be transparent, that is why we are fighting so fiercely right now for the negotiations that are happening, because the streaming platforms have vertically integrated a lot of those residuals away from actors, and we want them back. But in order to get them, the streaming companies would have to reveal their viewer counts, and they don't want to do that because that gives, you know, us power over them. And long story short, we are not getting paid what we used to. Shit. What was the? Oh yes, commercials. So I bring this up because when it comes to anime dubbing, our union payout, we just got a 30% raise on our contract that we updated for the first time in 20-something years. And that rate is now, I want to say, $88 an hour. With the 2-hour minimum. And granted, Destiny is not that rate. Dubbing is some of the lowest paying work. Destiny, pays a daily session rate. But anyway, all this being said, Destiny, as amazing as it is, to be in Destiny and to have this on my resume, to be able to market myself to other clients, to be able to continue, being an actor and growing my career. But the commercial work is really how you make things work between gigs. And when you're gender neutral, there's not a whole lot of work for you in the commercial space because it is highly gendered. And that's true for promo gigs as well. And so that can be very frustrating because that's where I feel very vulnerable and unprepared for other people's opinions in terms of how masculine or feminine I sound. Because in a character space, I can be like, yeah, sure, whatever. This person is a girl and they sound a little masculine here, but they're a tomboy. Fuck you. This is my interpretation. But for commercials, people have very different opinions about masculinity and femininity, and I don't know how to justify those opinions to myself, So, yeah, that's what I would say.
And on that, actually, on that note, we're kind of, I've got a few questions here, but we're definitely skipping because you brought up the whole, like the commercial work being very gendered. How has curating your roles and looking for roles or accepting roles, doing auditions, how has that gone as you've transitioned?
It's been very interesting because that answer really changes depending on who I have in my corner as my career has progressed. Because in the beginning, it was just me. And I felt very confused and very lost. And, you don't get a whole lot of auditions when you're unrepresented, but I felt especially kind of ignored over my other colleagues because I didn't tend to accept lower paying jobs. And I would... I had a deeper voice. I specifically remember one of my Japanese clients being like, yes, I need more of you because you have such a deep voice. And I'm like, really? I'm a soprano, but all right. And shit, remind me the question again. I have ADHD.
That's absolutely fine. We are so used to that.
I feel so represented now.
Same.
This is the true representation.
As you've been transitioning.
Oh yes, curating. So yeah, and when I first got my first agency, it was I'm a femme, I'm a woman. Give me 30-year-old woman auditions, please. And I think I was in my late 20s at the time. And so it was, very much me trying to fit into this very femme mold. I had a disagreement with that agent and ended up firing them. And then I went unrepresented for a while. And it's interesting because my Japanese clients have always kind of sent me the beginning of my career is very masculine based. I was young Kiritsugu in Fate Zero. I was Recon in Sword Art Online. My very first major role was Scrya in Madoka. No, not Madoka, but I wasn't a boy in Madoka. Fucking Nanoha, that's what it's called. So I had always been clued into the fact that I sounded masculine, and I was leaning into that. But I thought that's because there were only two genders. And I didn't really get the gender fluidity thing or the non-binary thing. And then when I finally did decide to come out, transition, and started taking hormones, I got my first agent, I got an agent after coming out, and that experience was very frustrating and limiting. And I'm not sure if it's because this agent was higher profile, because some higher profile agents tend to be very precious with the stuff that they send out to their actors. Like they'll be like, "Oh, I don't want you competing against this other guy because I want you to book this. I think you're better than him." But for me, like uh I'm a non-binary talent, so like I could be good for male characters, I could be good for female characters. I might be good for some non-binary characters, not literally all non-binary characters. But for me, I kind of prefer being left to make the choice on my own. And when I was with this other agency, they were very much like, we are going to only send you things that we think you are good for. And those things were usually like women that were not very comfortable for me. They were almost exclusively non-binary characters, and with the occasional woman. And like, but they would send me things like 14-year-old girls. Do I sound like a 14-year-old girl to you?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So I was with them for a year, and actually it was funny because I ended up getting a call back for Nimbus like right when I was getting ready to leave them, and I ended up going to the callback and being like, by the way, I quit
Oh gosh. Oh
to my
god.
agent. But I had another agent that was willing to represent me, and the person I'm with now, Atlas Talent, is they're fantastic. Because they are, they told me, they're like, yeah, we pretty much just throw spaghetti at the wall with you, and you know, whatever you read for, we learn more about your voice. And they have been changing the things they've been sending me in just the year that I've been with them. Like they
Oh
booked
wow.
me, yeah, they booked me World of Warcraft and like Diablo 4, and those were kind of like deep voiced female characters. Yes, I'm a rogue and we are going to go kill somebody. But they've also started more recently sending me like full on 20 or 30-year-old men. So and that's because my voice has been dropping. Actually, my voice started dropping right when I booked Nimbus, I think was when the first big drop happened, and I was crackling a lot.
Aw.
So yeah,
Those voice breaks that we sometimes hear with Nimbus are actually your voice breaks, not just like something that you had to like add in.
no, yeah, those were authentic, and sometimes I'd play it up a
Oh,
little
that's so
bit, but
cute.
yeah, no, it was, and actually the woo that I was like, yeah, that's definitely my woo, because my husband was like, it sounds deeper than you, because we didn't know that the voice was going to be changed. But my husband was like, it sounds deeper than you. It might not be you. And I was like, no, it's definitely me, because like I literally, when I was in the booth, they wanted me to do like a woo, like a much clearer woo, but because I'm going through literal puberty, I can't do that. Not the way they wanted to. So like there was just so much crackling, and I'm like, no, that's real. That's me. But yeah.
I love that. I love that we're, you know, as we get to know Nimbus, you know, farther in the story and stuff like that, that we kind of hear that evolution of your voice. I have one final question for you before we get up to Divas, and before I pass the mic on to him. And this is something personally that I think is really important, at least on my end as well, as you know, as well as your end, because you know, voice acting is something that I would like to get into eventually myself. And it's like, so my final question for you is, how have your fellow actors and fellow voice actors accepted or reacted to your change, you know, your transitioning and coming out and stuff like that? Because I know the voice actor community is very tight knit, but there are people of all different backgrounds in the voice acting community. So I'm just curious, you know, have there been any difficult interactions or anything like that, or have people been generally really accepting of you as you've transitioned?
It's funny, my immediate family is less accepting of me than the acting community has been.
Like, seriously, when my son came, he was the same way. They're like, but he's not a boy. Yes, he is.
Yeah, like my I was very shocked, and it's kind of funny because I think like there have been people within the voice acting community over the last few years that I think like kind of knew before I did. Because there was the Sailor Moon redub came out started coming out several years ago, and I actually auditioned for and got called back for Sailor Uranus, as well as one of the Sailor stars in Sailor Moon Crystal. And they, one of my friends was saying at the time, like, yeah, I recommended you because I really wanted them to get more gender nonconforming and queer people reading. And like, I was bisexual at the time, so I was like, okay, queer makes sense, but am I gender nonconforming? And I'm like sitting there with my head shaved and like, fucking all this other shit. And like, to me, like, it was never a matter of gender nonconformity. It was just wearing clothing that felt most comfortable to me. But like, as I continued learning more about gender nonconformity, it started, being like, oh yeah, no, this is right. But there's another actor by the name of Casey Mangelo who they've kind of gone through a few pronouns publicly. So the community kind of already had experience, learning about a trans person in transition, I suppose, because Casey has some personal complications with their transition, I think. But for me, it was very when I first talked to them, I was like, "Oh, remind me your pronouns because I forgot, or I'm terrible. I don't want to fuck up." And they were like, oh, whatever. They kind of changed by the day. What are yours, or what is your gender? And I was like, well, that's a good question. And that's when I was like, oh, maybe something's wrong. Maybe something is different here. But when I came out after the whole Enkidu thing, like it was pretty much everybody was supportive as far as I can remember. Because at first my transition has been pretty gradual. It started just with, hey, I'm non-binary and I think I like to be referred to as they, because it was a comfort thing for me. Managing other people's expectations if they heard neutral pronouns was the idea. And then from there it was, I want a different name. So I started asking people to call me by Marin. And it's funny too, actually, because I said something, I don't remember what I said, but I'm in an organizing group with actors, and I was talking about something, and I think I had recently asked about non-binary experiences on my Facebook, because I was just curious and polling. I had some non-binary people on my friends list and was asking, like, hey, why did you make this decision? I'm curious. Because I want to make my decision, I think. But I was talking about something to do with queerness, and somebody was like, "Oh, is it time? Are you changing your pronouns?" And I was like, "No, should I?" But it's just really funny, like how much certain people were chomping at the bit, like they were ready to go, to like support me. And that organizing group was actually the first group that I came out to, and I told them to use the name that I'm using now, which is Marin, which is my legal name now. Hooray! But I remember I just felt so sick doing it because I was like, oh, I'm being a bother, I'm being a nuisance, this is a problem. But now it just feels like a glove, and nobody even gave it a second thought. So I think social media definitely helps, because the name change is reinforced by seeing it repetitively every day, but yeah, I've not run into any sort of issues within the community with using the wrong name, to be honest.
That's absolutely beautiful to hear. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and there's lots of more non-binary actors coming out, or more she, theys and stuff. We've got Kimlin Tran is a demigirl, I think. Casey Mangelo, obviously. Melly Grant, who's Catalyst in Apex.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I think Casey recently asked for people to start using they, them, or she, they pronouns with them.
Who did?
Erika Ishii?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Erika Ishii's been gender fluid for a while. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I only recently heard about it, but I was like, oh my gosh, another baby. And,
Yeah.
they voice Anna Gray in Destiny as well, and is another great character representation because she's a lesbian.
Yeah.
Like,
Eric is also a great representation for that.
Eric is amazing. I'm so glad
I think Erica's preferred term is gender chaotic.
Love that. All right, Dava, my hunter man, you got some questions. Let's get to those.
After Tower here, my question seems so basic. I might have to step my game up and add a little bit more flair to it. But my first question was, how has working with Bungie and voicing Nimbus changed the way that you kind of look at the world and interact with, you know, I don't want to say like voice acting, just like your career as a whole?
Well, honestly, this is a big question. Because I am kind of at a crossroads right now. I've spent a lot of time in dubbing. That's where I got my start and where I really wanted to, burrow into, because I really loved anime. I loved the way that it told stories, and I really loved language and the way that like all of that kind of intersects when you're working on dubs is just so cool. Because I also write scripts for dubs as well. But
Okay.
I'm honestly, I'm kind of nervous about the future of dubbing, because we just had a major monopolizing merger with Crunchyroll and Funimation. Yeah, and that has had rippling effects on the dubbing market across the nation, and will continue to have rippling effects for years to come, because we're kind of like at a point where they're making legal claims that they expect us to go to court over, kind of. So and and there's also like, we don't know how much longer dubbing is going to exist, because there's a lot of companies that are actively gunning to remove it from the budget bottom line for companies.
What?
Yeah, like if you search for AI stuff, they are straight up like, yeah, we can disrupt the dubbing industry by using AI to streamline your workflow and remove the jobs from there, because all they need to do is get the AI technology to a point where they can clone, Tom Cruise's voice print, and then they can just have Tom Cruise voice himself in every language. Now, granted, as a voice actor, I'm fucked in that regard. As a writer, I might have a little more time, because they still need somebody to, adapt the script from the dry translation. But once AI gets that as well, it's all over for me. Like, that's all my job skills. But when it comes to dubbing, anyway. So, but the Crunchyroll merger happened in March. I want to say March of last year, and I was kind of at a point where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to dub anymore. Like, we're looking at AI. It's got a barrel interface. This merger might be pulling the higher profile work out of California, because anime is much higher profile than a lot of the live action dubs, like One Piece, My Hero Academia, that sort of shit. So I was just kind of like, I have two choices here, because I was also speaking out a lot at the time about the pay discrepancy between LA and Texas, and the way that Crunchyroll actors were being mistreated by Crunchyroll. And I was just kind of like, I might be burning every bridge that I have left in this industry, but what else do I do? Like, there's a right thing and a wrong thing, and all I know how to do is the right thing. And if that means that I'm not going to be acting anymore, then so be it. But I had just, and I was with an agent that as I mentioned, I was not enthusiastic with, but I ended up signing with Atlas in April, or May, somewhere around there. And I ended up booking Nimbus in June. So Nimbus, when I ended up booking them, like when I went into that session, excuse me, when I was called back, because I was initially called back, it just felt very comfortable, and like the concepts felt very like it felt like something that I was just naturally excited about, and it felt so collaborative because as much as I love dubbing, it's very rigid because you are held captive by the visuals. Not captive, you know. The original story is there and you have to honor the original story as best you can, and you can't reanimate the mouth flaps yet. Flawless AI is working on it. But so all I have is what's there. But when I went into the callback for Nimbus, the director Kevin was there, and he was like, "All right, so this is for Destiny 2, and we are going to be working on the lead character for our new expansion, and we're still figuring out exactly who Nimbus is and like what their vibe is and like how they're gonna, you know, be and stuff. But we know they're gonna be 10 feet tall or 12 feet tall." And I just immediately went, "Oh, big." um, and so, but I also got very excited because I was like, oh, because they also were talking about like the physiology of the muscles, the face, that we were experimenting with maybe having Nimbus speak much slower because they were getting used to the bigger muscles and stuff. So it felt, and like when I went into the booth, I was given just the same copy that I had been given for the original audition, and like that whole callback audition was just us basically like going through and imagining different scenarios so that they could test basically my flexibility and my ability to imagine and deliver on scenarios that they would give me on at the drop of a hat. You know, because like one of the audition lines was Paladin when Rohan gets squished. So when I had initially auditioned, it was Din, you know, reaching out, screaming, whatever, kind of like it was in the original. But then when we were in the callback, he was like, "Okay, so what about one that's just like big, like long, very dramatic? Okay, well, what about one where you are coming out into a clearing and you see a body?" And you just are kind of like trying to get their attention over the headpiece. So, you know, that goes from like Rohan to Rohan, like, so very different. And like I don't know what it was, but it just felt very like comfortable and very supportive, and like it felt like, because I feel like in dubbing situations, my voice and my voice print is always very hyper analyzed. But with Nimbus, that was not the case. The weirdness was very much encouraged, and like they wanted more of it. So it just kind of taught me to lean into the things that I'm scared to lean into at the end of the day, because, you know, and like even the audition copy, that was not stuff that was in the final game. It was ideas. Like I think one of the audition lines was that was a lot of words and I kind of lost track in the middle there, but I think what you're essentially saying is go with the flow, and that's the theme of the game. But it's not the line, because obviously the line that he loses, or that Nimbus loses track, is when they're talking about Osiris has got volunteer vibes, and you know he's got you know, he seems excited, so that's cool. And like same with the I suffer today, so tomorrow can live on, like that Cloud Strider oath. That was something that was in the audition copy, but it was a little different. So, you know, like we don't have to be 100% perfect. We don't have to be like ready to fucking go. We just have to be like in the right park. And if I had not leaned into my weird speech patterns because I'm a non-binary pansexual Californian, and all the experience and weirdness that comes with that, then I would not have booked this role, and the character would not be the character that they are. Because, you know, all throughout the recording process, everybody would reinforce to me that nobody else was Nimbus. It was me the whole time, and there were a lot of people in those sessions. I want to say there were probably 8 to 10 people on a Zoom call every session. Except for the most recent session I had. I think that was during GDC, so everybody was gone. But Yeah, I mean, Nimbus really reinforced to me that like, it's okay to transition away from what you were, and it's okay to move towards something that is unfamiliar and maybe not what your first goal was, but that doesn't mean it can't be fun and new and exciting and help you grow and become more than what you were.
I'm gonna say one line that really stuck out to me was like right before you start the training course was flow with the river. Like
Yeah.
that stuck out a lot.
Mm.
David, what else you got?
Man, I got 1,001 questions in my head. But like you've answered so many of them in just a passing that it's absolutely crazy. Like one of the other questions that I had was like, do you feel like you have imparted like a part of you that changed the way that the game progressed or how the role progressed? But I feel like like you just answered it for me. It's just that easy. And it's now I'm
Yeah.
just like, well, you gotta come up with a couple other questions on the fly.
Well, I can say that I don't think they changed very much about who the character is because, like, even in the description, they were saying that Nimbus, I think, allergic to negativity was how they described them, and
I love that.
and they had 3 pictures, which was Cora and Scorpia and Thor. But it was like Thor when he was real excited, and I think he was recognizing the Hulk in that Ragnarok movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So like they kind of had the vibe, like I think I don't remember if Thembo was dropped in the initial pitch session, but I think it was just a matter of like both of us having an idea and then us vibing on a similar frequency. So I don't think like, because obviously like when it comes to the actual game itself, there's very little that can be changed. Like I was really shocked about how much, like how specific some of these requirements are if I wanted to improvise or change anything in the booth. Like what was it? I think it was I'm gonna get you the coordinates was one of the lines, and they had to have a conversation like, are we going to need to tell the person to update the subtitles and all this other stuff, because there are like, if any letter of that recording is changed, they have to like pass it off to multiple people to make sure that the subtitles are updated in every fucking language, I think. So because it's not a matter of, yeah, it's because like also, when we're just doing dubbing, we're just worrying about like one track, one language. But when you're doing the original project, you have to worry about localization in every country,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
That's crazy. I never really thought about that.
it's
That's
kind of
just one of those things that just, I guess, kind of goes over your head in passing.
yeah.
Kind of like, well, you kind of like, in my head, I always thought that like the subtitles kind of was like an afterthought.
Yeah, but no,
Interesting.
I think part of it is because like subtitles and that sort of stuff has become much more of people have advocated it to become much more of like a requirement, because it is an accessibility thing, like deaf people need to be able to enjoy the game, so they need to be able to see what's going on. And same with my husband actually was the voice of the audio description for the blind in all of the new Star Wars movies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah. So if you watch those and you turn on the English audio description, you can hear little Karibo go like, "Yes, Finn is sweaty."
I'm sorry. I'm trying not to nerd out right now. I didn't know that. Car
Yes,
games on motorcycles. Oh my god.
You should have seen the DMs that
Because I didn't really because I kid you not. I didn't understand. And then when you retweeted it and then he retweeted it, my brain almost exploded because like just in general. Like I
You didn't
just, it was
know.
insane. No, so
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, like he has like he's been an inspiration for me when it comes to me trying to do voice acting work and trying to do podcasting stuff. So like that was just like holy crap.
I'm sure he'll be very confused as to why you said that because he does not understand his value or appeal at all. But as somebody who married him, I thank you for the appreciation and agree. I agree as well.
That's awesome. Man, that is awesome. But I guess my last question is are there any other voice actors that you look forward to working with or wish you could work with? Or maybe some that like newer actors that you wish you got a little bit more time to work out in the like a more like higher end scene to get more
The
time, I
love.
guess. Yeah, get a little bit of love. There you go.
Man, well, I'm gonna say my buddy Edwin Tong does not get enough love. He's an Australian voice actor, part human, part gremlin. He has
Aren't
his
we
own
all?
he has his own horny jail in our little voice acting workout group. And we post Garfield memes for him.
Oh my dear.
But he's very funny. He kind of actually reminds me a lot of Gideon Emery in terms of his vocal tone. Like Gideon Emery is a little more British, I think. I don't actually know if Gideon.
Oh, we know we know Gideon here. He's the voice of Devrim K.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's funny.
another
and
fellow gay at the
Toland.
time.
Yeah, and Toland. So if you ever go into like the Shattered Throne dungeon, which I should totally take you into sometime, that's Gideon as well.
See, I'm excited. I hear that like there are actors that have done multiple characters, in like Keitel is also Amanda, and so I'm like, man, I hope I get to do a second character. That'd be so fun.
Saint 14, the guy who does the voice of Saint 14, also did the voice of Clovis Gray.
I'm gonna have like so many conflicting emotions one day if I meet him, because like on one level I want to worship the ground he walks on, but on the same level I want to punch him in the face, and it's like
So let me see voice actors I will really want to work with. I mean, I would fucking die. I was really excited. Actually, you brought up Cannon Busters, and I got to work with Darren DePaul on that one because I was actually a production coordinator on that show for a brief time. And he came in.
You technically have worked with him. He's the voice of Alice.
But I just want to I want to be in the room with him and like play off of him because he and his wife are so cute. They're like 5'6", and I'm 6 feet tall, so I tower over them. And like he dresses in these cute little suits and he wears these little glasses, and I'm just like, you have the most intimidating voice on the planet, and you look like this.
I mean, man walks around as Reinhardt, like, and then he comes back in our world and with his callus, and it's like the intimidation he just emulates is insane.
I love his callus. His callus is so gay. It's amazing. And let me see. I mean, so actually, I didn't bring this up earlier, but one of the first voice actors I ever reached out to and was like, how I voice act, and they were nice enough to respond was Liam O'Brien. Yeah, and he's on like Critical Role and stuff, but like when I was reaching out to him, he was a New Yorker that had just come out to LA, and I knew him from being in this fucking awful anime called Descendants of Darkness, Yami no Matsue. And it was like one of the first gay anime I had watched. And him and the voice of Yu-Gi-Oh! Were the main characters. Him and Dan Green. And they were in love.
My gosh.
Yeah, and they were in love. And so, I emailed him and I was like, oh my God, you voiced the gay man. What is that like? And he, talked about being Juliet in a Romeo and Juliet sort of production thing he did. Anyway, I love Liam O'Brien. I think he has one of the most interesting voices. Also, Jameson Price, fucking amazing voice talent. He's, if you guys have ever seen the anime Gonkutsuo, the Count of Monte Cristo, he is the Count of Monte Cristo, and he just has this like, his voice is like melted butter. I don't know how else to describe it. It's so
Silky
rich.
smooth. You gotta
Oh.
love it.
Beautiful. And I mean, I think Zeno Robinson is hella cute, obviously, but I've
Gino
worked
is the
with him.
bomb, man.
Yeah.
I love him.
I would fucking love. Oh, I would really like to work with Mason Park, actually. The non-binary actor who was in the Cowboy Bebop as Gren, the Cowboy Bebop live action, and they're also in the new Quantum Leap, but they're one of the more well-known non-binary actors, I think. Yeah, and as for newer people, I mean, I think there's a newer actor that I've kind of been coaching off and on who I think is really cute. Their name is Maya Ann, and she's just starting to come up in like the independent voice acting community. But she's got like a really nice, rich sound that I think is hard to replicate. So I'm rooting for her, and I hope she books more.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Well, we get a couple of a couple of questions from our community Discord that wanted to ask you a couple of things. Alchemy, holla at us. What do we got?
So, one of my question is, what was the method you used for getting into the character of Nimbus?
So it's funny when we first started working on the character, like we would have a couple of different settings because we were trying to figure out that fine line of cutesy versus obnoxious. Like there was one line that I'm very glad did not make it to the end, and it was an alternate of it's not because of the breathtaking views of the radial tilt, I think is the line. And like there was an alt of it where it was like, and it's not just because the real estate prices are such and such. And I'm like, guys, we can't talk about real estate prices in Neo Muna. That's a little too on the nose. That's a little too real for me right now, living in my overpriced California house. But yeah, like, so there would be, I would sometimes have like, the Stargaritas on Rohan is a good example, because that was one I had to come back to for pickups at the very end. And at the very end, they brought me in for pickups, like I said. And the pickups were basically, okay, we liked what you did before, but it was just a little too much. And I'm sorry if you hear meowing, by the way. Meatball has a lot of opinions about this. But yeah, so they were like, it was great what you did, because I think I played a bit younger at times than what they were expecting. Because, you know, I think in my head I was thinking more of a bit more immature, and they were thinking like, I was thinking like teens and they were thinking like 20s, like punk ass 25, 30 something year old, I think. But so when they brought me back in, they were like, okay, we're going to be recalibrating some of these lines. So we're going to have, we had like a placement that was like the putting on sunglasses and walking away from an explosion.
Oh, I love that.
Setting. Because I would tend to go for the very excited round. Like my first take for the Stargaritas on Rohan was like, we do this and then bing bang boom, Stargaritas on Rohan, baby, like, you know, that sort of shit. And they were like, no, Marin, calm down. And then it turned into bing bang boom, Stargaritas on Rohan. So and that was more of the like sunglasses walking away from an explosion. Oh, the let's go do some hero stuff, that was also a sunglasses and walking away from an explosion line. Before it was like, let's go do some hero stuff, yeah boy, like that was the vibe I was going for.
Love that
sounds
so much.
fun.
It just
That
sounds like
sounds
it's
so
such a fun time just to like bounce off ideas and stuff like that and recreate the perfect thing you want to make happen.
Yeah, it is fun. Like, and that's why I kind of appreciated the interactive setting a little bit more because, when we're working on dubs, it's a little hard to not get in your head about redirects because you have the visuals there. So it's a little easier for you to get the context and a little easier for you to feel weird about like, oh, I don't know if I like the way that you're directing me. And but when you have literally nothing, it's much nicer to just sort of be like, okay, let's try and really figure out, like, sharpen this blade, figure out like what exactly shade of emotion you're looking for and what context we're looking for too. Because I mean, what is it? The scene where Nimbus finds Rohan's the gun, the exotic.
Oh,
That was totally different when I first read that. It was very much like tears streaming down my face, like we're kind of having a conversation right next to each other at a table. It was like, I can't fucking do this, and I'm looking at this, and I'm just fucking, and they were like, no tears streaming down your face. The tears are like welled up in the corners of your eyes, and you are kind of like 5 or 10 feet away. So like, it's really interesting to be able to be given the freedom to really explore different kinds of reads like that. And I enjoyed it.
Hell yeah.
There
I
you
love
go.
that so
it
much.
definitely sounds like
And-
you had a great time, like, because it shows through in how Nimbus comes across in the game, in the live game. Like, it sounds like you had a great time. It sounds like Nimbus is having a good time. Like, that's what comes across to me.
I'm glad. Because, yeah, I didn't feel very nervous at all. It was nice.
I'm just saying, look, I am just happy to see a return of like the surfer slang
Yeah,
coming back into prominence. Look, I'm so happy.
we need Michelangelo representation.
Exactly.
Yes, Mikey energy. That's what Nimbus comes across to me as, is Mikey energy. Like, fun and funny when it's good to be fun and funny, but when stuff gets down to business, Nimbus is there and is ready to get down to business.
Yes,
Almost
indeed.
definitely.
And now I've got
Alright.
one more question. How has your interaction with the Destiny community, like after the fact that the people said that Nimbus ruined the game, like how has that been like affecting you, and like would you still play the game?
I mean, my husband and I watched my husband play through the whole campaign. So we have played the game, and we are currently trying to play more of Season of the Deep, but he sucks. I say, having sucked at the game. But I just want to throw a
Play
little
game with
shade.
me.
I know I keep
You have a free invite to come game with any of us anytime.
I
Most
keep
def.
telling
You're
him, I'm like,
always
Martin,
welcome.
I
High
can
five
hook
to
you
you.
up with just about anybody who you want. But yeah, I honestly like I knew that because we've all lived through the highs and lows of gaming, the community at large. We've all seen the community change and the culture kind of show itself. I knew what to expect getting into this. And thankfully, it was nowhere near as bad as I was hoping it would be. There were, other things that I was concerned about that really nobody gave a shit about because they were so focused about the gender shit, which I'm like, all right, if you want to be transphobic, go for it. And I just still can't get over the fact that of all the fucking things to spiral out of me accepting this role, the rumor that I make fart porn is one of them. But it's
Wait,
just on
what?
brand
Hold
for
up,
me.
what?
Oh yeah.
Let me take a step back here. What?
Just by
So
supporting Marin, I've gotten people in my comments going, Marin does this. And I'm like, no, they don't.
no. Yeah.
Don't
So
even
I
sound
made
like
a
it makes
fart
sense.
joke. I made a fart joke because people obviously, before they got to the point where you do the exotic weapons quest, because that's kind of what evens Nimbus out, where you realize that it's all a front.
Mhm.
Before they got to that, everyone was like, Nimbus is Jar Jar Binks and blah blah blah. Jokes on them. I love Jar Jar Binks.
Yes.
But people people were just being mean or whatever. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be a Nimbo defender. I love my baby Nimbo. So I tweeted something like, Nimbus to me is just like a consciousness that's been put into a body and is just so excited to experience the nervous system. Because at the time, I could not remember the specifics of the lore, and I did not know if it had been revealed that the Cloud Arc was, you know, basically the Matrix where they kept everybody in there. I didn't know if it was revealed that it was only an emergency measure. I didn't know how long, and I also don't know if we really know how long they've been in there. Because I know that it happened when Rohan was a Cloud Strider, but there was no like specific like 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So I mean, if Nimbus is in their early 20s, then chances are they spent a good chunk of their formative years in a machine, and they may have just kind of lost track of their body. And what it feels like to have those actual nerve impulses, you know? So to me, I was like, they're just fucking excited to feel the wind under their pits, you know, like when they're Naruto running. And then I think I made a joke where it was like, Nimbus, like, risky business slides into the room and is like, look what I just learned I can do. And then he farts, or they fart. And that was my joke. And then that triggered some individuals to search the word fart on my Twitter. And oh my God, scandal of the year. Do you guys know that I like to make fart jokes?
The world's coming to an end.
And I
That's
think
it.
I think the one that did it was the one where I said, the voice acting is free, you pay for the farts.
Wow.
Anyway, so people tried to, because they have nothing else on me. Like I've been married to one man the entirety of my fucking life. We're having a great time. We're, you know, in a perfectly successful relationship. I'm very boring, so they just had to make something up, I guess. But that being said, and like I said, it is very on brand for me. Of all the things to have happen, fartborn rumor is probably the most Marin story I can think of. But that being said, like I really do enjoy like just how enamored people are with Nimbus. Like it's really fun to be a character that I know people just kind of like look up and go
Like that's a big motherfucker right there.
yeah. It's very amusing to me. And like when the first images were revealed of Nimbus, like I was cackling so much when people were like, yo, what's up with that dick?
Oh my
Oh my
dear.
God,
Piece.
the freaking waist armor. As a veteran, I was looking at that and I was like, y'all are so fucking stupid. Do you
They're
not
thirsty.
understand what the hell that is?
Thirsty little silly babies. I fucking love it. And there was like it was a meme for a little bit. I think it was off of The Gamer. There was an article, and it has the most favorite thing I've ever seen written about a character that I've voiced, and it was the phrase "the unavoidable bulge of their enormous penis." And
Oh my lord.
Oh, I love it.
I feel like I accomplished something with that phrase. And like I didn't even design the character. I felt so good. But I really do love like how involved everyone is in the story and the characters. You know, like I was expecting just another first person shooter, but I found like a really vibrant community of people who are just excited to live in this world and shoot shit up and do space magic and stuff and have all sorts of gay aliens hanging out with them and everything. And I'm like, hell yeah, because I might not be great at the FPS thing, but I'm a whore for fandom. Like, I love like fan fiction, I love head canons, I love all that stuff. Like, oh, you better believe my husband like trolls the internet for that fan content and sends it to me.
Oh my
Oh
dear.
dang! I should probably stop posting my fan fiction.
No,
Twitter.
keep it up.
Oh
Keep reading
Lord!
it.
Look what's happened.
Look!
I don't read it all, but I read some of it.
Drax, okay.
My husband explained the bare basics. I can understand.
I mean, to be fair, like your husband comes from like the fandom where like the Yu-Gi-Oh characters like had the worst fan fiction. So like I kind of have to sympathize that he has to go somewhere else for a little bit. like the You Say Jack Atlas like stuff alone, card games on motorcycles started a trend. So like yeah.
That alone was an atomic bomb. That's what Oppenheimer is going to be about, is that fucking phrase.
Oh gosh.
But no, this has been just an amazing episode with you. Like that one line right before the training course has like stuck with me throughout this entire thing. The flow like the river, because it is symbolic of what we've been dealing with in the industry and also in society right now, where like almost all of us here are queer. We have these different like stories that we can tell. But in terms of like, I think one thing that I would love to get your opinion on is just what do you tell, especially when the community is so toxic, when we've seen different things happening in the video game space this past week alone. What do you tell different queer like gamers to give them hope for the future of the medium?
I would say I would point to the word queer as a starting point and say queer was once an insult to use against us. And it was something, it took people looking other people in the face and saying, yeah, I'm fucking queer. You're right. Before it just turned into a word that we use to describe ourselves. And likewise, people think that they can say or twist whatever we say into whatever they want, and we'll just bend over backwards to deny it or whatever. And at the end of the day, if somebody wants to project that weirdness onto me, like the fart shit, people think that them going around saying that I make fart porn reflects poorly on me. Bitch, you're the one who literally saw a joke about farts and was like, yeah, they definitely make porn. Like, come on. Why is that my problem that you did that? I don't have to worry about your weird fetishes and fantasies of me. I don't need to accommodate that. So, and it's like I saw a video the other day, and I remember it at the time when Anderson Cooper was talking to Lady Gaga, and he was saying, there are people who claim that you have a penis, and she's like, okay, would it be so terrible if I did? And he's like, well, sometimes people would issue a statement to be like, no, of course I don't have a penis. And she's like, why would I fucking waste my time doing that, bruh? Like, if I have a penis or don't have a penis, the people who like me do not give a shit. They just like listening to me sing. So likewise, if you're queer, if you're trans, especially right now where so many people are just asking questions, and it's always the same fucking questions, and they never actually accept what you say as your perspective. They always have to argue with it and tell you why you're wrong. And it's like, okay, but arguing with me about biology doesn't fucking matter because I don't care about biology. At the end of the day, my body does not feel correct for me, so I am taking medical steps to intervene. Why is that anyone's business but mine? And if you have a problem with using a different pronoun to refer to me, that is your issue. So you can go deal with it in therapy, and I'm going to go over here with the other adults who can work with people like mature individuals and and we can get what needs to be done, and you can throw your little shit fit and have an extinction burst in the corner. Like I hate to say something like that because obviously it encourages a divide or whatever, but why is it our responsibility to bridge that divide?
Preach.
Like, I'm done debating because I'm going to exist whether you like it or not. And the fact of the matter is, my life has become much easier. I've become a much more tolerable person, a much happier person. Those are all quantifiably true. So why would I change what has been working for me just because it makes somebody who is not investing in my personal or sexual wellness uncomfortable? Like, if you're not eating my pussy, why do I care? That's my life motto.
I mean, I respect.
Respect. Look, hey.
So
all I got to say about it is, back in the day, I had one of my ex-girlfriends. She had a saying, like, look, if you're not the person that's gonna do the fun thing that the person likes, why is your opinion matter here?
Yeah.
I know what side my bread is buttered on, and I am to keep it buttered.
Yes, indeed.
Mm.
And that's the thing, like, we are here on this planet whether we want to be or not. We had no choice in the fucking matter.
Yeah.
And some of our parents set us up the wrong way, and they expected us to be grateful for it, and we have very bad ideas of what the world should be like because of those terrible expectations. I totally understand that. But like, you don't have to hammer that into somebody else just because you feel something when you see them, you don't have to hold somebody else responsible for that feeling. And likewise, as a queer person, if somebody feels the need to make you responsible for the feelings that are triggered when they see you, fuck them. Just absolutely fuck them. Because we ain't got the time or the energy for that. We're all too poor.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
But no, thank you so much for being on this episode. It has been insane. Like, I was really hopeful this was going to go well, and you blew my expectations out of the water. So thank you so much. You have a free pass to come back whenever you want. This was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well,
Yes.
yeah, feel free to reach out again, and I'll be happy to come back.
Absolutely. And you have a free pass to, like I said before, join any of us. You and Kurbo are welcome to join any of us anytime y'all are in game. If you want to do activities or anything like that, learn dungeons, raids, let us know. We'll help you guys do any of that kind of stuff. That's one of the big things that we do.
Nice. Yeah. I've been trying to tell him, I'm like, look, man, we got volunteers.
Heck yeah. All the time.
But this was just phenomenal, and we are gonna go ahead and wrap up this episode. I think normally we do like what is your closing statement? I think you kind of like encapsulated everything that I've was trying to get on the right page, and this ended up being sort of like a Pride Month episode in a way, but like it wasn't the intention. It was mostly like, I want to get them on the show to talk about this because we are mostly queer hosted here, and I wanted to make an impact in a big way. So like, I definitely feel like we made an impact, and I really appreciate you being here for that.
No worries. Thanks for having me. Glad to make the little ripples.
Yes. So that we definitely appreciate you folks for listening, and we will catch you folks starside. Peace out.